But to get to that space, the body is an incredible help. The emotional body and all the dramas and it's all the help. So just start feeling the body. So consciousness is like a hurricane with a very, very unmoving silent center and a chaotic periphery. Most people living identified with this periphery out there, where one hand fights with another hand, because the periphery is grasping and rejecting. So you wake up in the morning, and in the morning you actually come from this totally unmoving silent space. It's dreamless sleep, but you are not aware of it. But you are actually home every night when you fall into the dreamless sleep. But you wake in the morning, and most people rush into the periphery, into thinking, hoping, fearing, desiring. They move into thinking, hoping, feeling, leaving where they're coming from. That's why in the East you will always see that people are supposed to meditate when the sun rises. It has a deep meaning because there's, hopefully you have not moved into the periphery yet, really. And this periphery is just like a hurricane. The more you far away from the silent, unmoving center you are having your life, the more miserable you are. The more chaotic is your life. That's very simple. When you start finding ways to relax this periphery, you start meditating, started finding ways to just start relaxing, you slowly start moving towards the center without really knowing it. Because you cannot know this unmoving center before you're actually there. What do I mean by one hand fighting the other? When we are living in the periphery, we are grasping and rejecting. That's the mind. That's the ego mind. We want to have good experiences and we want to avoid that which is painful. And that is a dualistic state. That is separation. And that is essentially pain and ignorance. If you could meet all these places in the periphery directly and relax into them, and just see that if you relax into them, all these emotions, experiences, whatever it is, could just relax into them without labeling, without concepts, but meet it directly. This is mindfulness. You will see that they are impermanent. They disappear. And without your knowing, you actually fall a little closer into the silent center. You start coming home without really knowing it. When you slowly start coming home, you will meet some very basic dramas in the mind. It's, for instance, loneliness, death. You will meet them when you start coming close to Source, because they are the most rejected. The most that you have pushed away from. And you will not wake up unless you see through all of it. That you see all of this is imagination. The periphery is nothing but imagination. There is no objective world. It's all mental. Even the trees and other people, it's mental. Otherwise we could not awaken if we were dependent on some objective world outside us. It's not so. But you have to remember you were brought up in a very, very low culture that has no idea about what I'm talking about. So, if you go to ordinary classical therapy with some kind of problems, then you will not go beyond the dualistic state, because the therapist will say, oh yes, we have to analyze this problem. We have to accept it finally. We have to get in touch with it and blah, blah, blah. But the ordinary therapeutic approach is not dualistic, not non-dual. It's dualistic. And maybe after you have been in therapy for 5-6 years, you slowly accept that's how it is, and you kind of let it be. But the duality is still there with your stories. All your stories are empty. They all have one essential nature. You can call it God, you can call it pure consciousness. That is the essential nature of all and everything. And unless you see that, you don't come home really. Many people have what we call a conceptual enlightenment. It means that they know all the words. All the words. And they can repeat all the words. But they don't have an existential awakening. They have not really made the shift deep inside into who they are. It's a shift. When you finally move through the periphery back, slowly, when you fall into this silent, unmoving center, it's a gentle shift. And of course, this unmoving silent center is not separated from the periphery, but it's also not dependent on it. You're free. You're totally free. Unconditionally free. There's no I here. There's no ego. The ego that you used to live with is also thoughts, concepts in the periphery of your mind. Ego is not a reality, it's thinking. So we actually going to work on this periphery. Whatever we have out there, we are fighting with, grasping and rejecting. So I also work with inviting these suppressed part in, so we can see that I'm permanent. Otherwise, they will manipulate you from underneath. So it's very important to meet everything of yourself. But I'm not interested in analyzing it really and trying to accept it. I want you to see that it's impermanent. Look here. This is the Russian dollar. All experiences are like her. The first layer, the first experience you meet, maybe jealousy. Maybe you meet jealousy. Oh, jealousy, I always feel jealousy. Oh, ba. Maybe a drama in your relationship. That is the first layer you meet. You analyze it, you try to get rid of it, you try to accept it, blah, blah, blah. No, I want you to really meet it and relax into it, totally, with all what it is. Then after a while it changes. And it becomes a new experience. Maybe inferiority. Maybe it becomes anger, inferiority. There comes a new layer. If you just relax into the first with total experience, it will change, because all experiences are changing. They seem solid because of language. They are not. There's nothing solid here that we can experience. Only you are solid, but you are not an experience. Then maybe it becomes inferiority, and you say, oh my God, inferiority. You relax into that. Oh, now it's changing, Nukunu. Oh, it becomes some kind of, my God, I'm so angry. That's the next layer. Then you feel your anger. Don't try to get rid of it. Don't analyze it. Feel it. Because if you totally feel your anger, you become totally red, on fire. It won't last long. I feel okay now. Now you're coming close to the unmoving center. I actually feel okay. I don't know what happens to the jealousy and the inferiority and the anger, but it's gone. And there's nothing left. It's empty. This doll, I think, comes from the shamanistic tradition in Siberia. It's a very deep understanding. So this is the work. Otherwise, you can go on and on and on. You'll never be finished with your stories. They never end. Because you haven't seen that they are impermanent. Everything here is impermanent. But people are, of course, scared of facing that. Death, this body is also impermanent. It's very, very clear. Even though we don't want to face it. So close your eyes again. And I'm just going to repeat this little movement. When we wake up in the morning, here we go. Out in the periphery of the thinking mind. With what you would like and what you dislike. And all of this is yourself. So it's one hand fighting another hand. Who can win? How can you win anything? It's literally like one hand fighting the other. Because it's all you taking form of something. So in this work, we will meet all these things we have pushed aside. Don't want to meet, don't want to feel. We will meet them until we can totally see through them, that they are empty of any self-nature. They are empty of any separate self-nature because all is God. There is only God. I'm not talking about Christian God or the Islamic God. I'm talking about something you feel in your heart. Some truth, some you want to realize. Call it pure awareness also. In Buddhism it's called the Buddha nature. And in Advaita it's called Brahman, the Absolute. It has different names, but it's all the same. It's an experience of who you truly are. But that is not a person. That is something so fantastic and so fulfilling. And you will know that you have been looking for it your whole life. In all your relationships, in all your work, in all your things you have been doing. You have been working and looking for that. To be really happy. To be really free. So this is kind of the work we're going to do. And in this first 4 days, we will basically work with the first chakra. Do you know the chakra system? The first chakra is the base of the spine. Second chakra is just below the navel. Third chakra is the solar plexus below the rib cage. Fourth chakra, the heart. The fifth chakra, the throat. And the 2 next chakras, we can work with them indirectly. Because they have to do with clarity and trust. You can wake up in any chakra. You can wake up. Have a moment of clarity. But that just means that you will also have to see through all the rest. Your clarity may not be for long. That's why I talk about sudden awakening and gradual cultivation. You can actually wake up in any chakra. Ramana, he woke up in the first chakra. because he felt he was going to die. So he laid down and wanted to feel and meditate on how it is to die. That's first chakra. And this is a very, very powerful way. Very, very easy to go on when you wake up in the first chakra. You can also wake up in the emotional chakra, the third chakra. You can wake up in all of them, but let me just say a little bit, very short about them. First chakra is the body, your primal conditioning. You're able to take care of yourself. So one of the big fear in the first chakra is fear of survival. That is the one you will meet here. How to get money, how to get food, and how to basically just survive as a body. It's your basic energy. And it's so important to really be totally clear in this chakra. It's your base. And it also has to do with your parents. Letting go of the parents' voices in you. Because most people just live their parents' voices. On and on and on. They find a partner that is just like the father or the mother. Goes on. It's first chakra. And actually the chakras are energies in the etheric body, in the first aura. It's not really in the physical. Of course, sometimes this chakra is related to something in the physical body. But it's just a model. I talk about it as a model to understand our energies. The second chakra has a lot to do with relationship. Because here the energy, the basic energy moves into sexuality. In the Svadhisthana, in the second chakra. So here we are confronted with all this about relationship, or relationship. Mostly it's relationship. Because people don't work with their stuff. They don't use it. And of course, next time we meet, it will be very much about this chakra. And be clear here as much as possible. So you don't repress anything here, so you can be totally mindful here, so you are not reactive here. Anytime you are reactive, it just shows that you are not clear. If you are clear, you will respond. You will not react. Reaction is fear, basically. It's the ego. Ego is fear, basically. So when you have realized yourself and you are really clear, you will respond. And the other part will feel that as if the other part feel embraced. You will feel embraced if you are meeting somebody who's responding to you. When you meet somebody who is reacting to you, you feel wrong, you feel pushed away, you feel separated. That was second chakra, Svadhisthana. And then we come to solar plexus. This has a lot to do with your basic also energy, also willpower, and it's also the sub-personalities. The more sub-personalities you have, the more unawakened you are. So it's very clear.
You mean sub-personalities, when you are like schizophrenic and you behave differently towards different people, different circumstances.
Okay, let's mention some of them.
Can you?
There is the inner judger. It's one sub-personalities. There is the inner, can you help me?
The survivor.
What?
The survivor.
Yes, survivor.
Me too.
the inner child.
Critic.
The critic, very good one.
Parent.
The parent voices, great. If we start mentioning them, you will see there are 50, maybe. Many, many, many. And many of them are disowned. They are disowned, many of them. They are all phases of the ego. They are all phases of the ego. But some of them are disowned. And it means that when they pop up, we become very reactive. And sometimes we become so reactive that we don't even know what we do. When a man kills the wife and children in a moment of despair, it is a repressed sub-personalities that comes up and takes over. And the repressed one, the shadow ones, they are so powerful. I used to tell a story about I have a man that had been with me for many years, and I've not seen him for many years now, but he was in jail twice for beating up his wife. And he told me that from the moment she opened the door until she was bleeding in the corner, he didn't know what he was doing. That's the disowned part of the ego. So slowly we had to open this whole drama, theater, you can call it a theater, of sub-personalities that we are pushing away. And if there's any part of you that you don't want to see, you cannot come fully into your enlightenment. Because the moment this disowned part in any way shows up, you start fighting. And the ego is there fighting this experience. The ego lives on grasping and rejecting. That's why we can have actually a moment of clarity when there's no grasping and rejecting. But mostly we fall back and we have again to work and continue to work. Like I will say, like an old Zen master said, I'm still cultivating. I will also say that. As long as the body, mind is here. Because awakening is an ongoing seeing through. And it becomes more and more effortless that you just see through. In the beginning, it's not effortless. You have to meet all these things that is in the way, where you start fighting. So this is the solar plexus chakra, and it's also a very, very suppressed chakra. Because in our society, we have to compete to be somebody, and we also has to be very meek and humble. So we are told many things contradictory in our upbringing. And this here, of course, is very much formed by the early conditioning also. The early conditioning goes on to about 7 years. Then comes the secondary conditioning that embrace also the teenage time. When there comes this whole new energy of sex, very strong. And as I tell you, you are brought up in a very, very low culture that has no idea about all these things. I had to go to the old India, basically to the matriarchate, way back, 4,000 years old in India, where you have all the tantra, you have the yoga, you have the mantra from, it's a patriarchate. Then come this perverted matriarchate later on, with repression. We had the matriarchate also in England, 3,000, 4,000 years ago. They say that Jesus' mother-in-law came from the patriarchate, the Celts in India, in England. Her, Jesus's, what is it called? Mother-in-law, yeah. She brought this kind of energy
From the matriarchy.
Yeah, from the matriarchy, from the Celtic culture. And people who have lived, I've of course read about it, people who have looked very deep into the life of Jesus can count that he was at least in England 2-3 times. And he was also, of course, in India. If you read about it, many people claim that he was in India in the very early days and lived with the Buddhists. That's why he has this compassion thing. And later on, he went to India again after he was tried to be crucified. He never died. He was taken down because the Jewish holiday stopped before he was dead. So he was taken down and he went to India again, up to Kashmir. That's many science has looked into it. A Russian science and the German science has tried to follow him through Persia up to Kashmir. And so this is about the solar plexus to wake up here. And you will see that in a traditional therapy, you had to meet it and you had to really accept it and you have to analyze it and blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on and on. No, this is very radical. You have to see that it has no reality. All your stories are empty of any self-nature. They're all God. Then we move on to the heart. And heart, that's where you love become a state of being, not a relationship. And of course there's glimpses of that also in your relationship, in your marriages. But a lot of it is relationship. It means separation, fight, struggle. When you come into the heart, love is more a state of being, not something you try to get from another people. You are it, whoever you are with. And you can share your love. And it's beautiful in a relationship to share the love and not be a beggar. Because most relationship is a beggar. You are out with a begging bowl. Love me, accept me, don't be angry at me, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Because it's built on separation. When you really come into the heart, you will realize that even if your partner goes away from you, the love does not go away. Can you feel that? How can the love go away? It's you. So even if the partner leaves you, your love is your love. It's just the body leaving, not the love. That is the heart coming more and more in here. Love is you. And finally we come to the throat chakra. We can work a little bit with that, but it has to do with authenticity. To speak the truth. And to speak the truth, you have to be able to meet the truth and dare to speak it. And if you don't speak the truth to people and your surroundings, if you lie, even a small lie, you will be lying to yourself also. It's the same thing. You call it another person, but there is no other really. There is no other really, even though it appears so. Appearance is not the truth. But we live in appearance, we eat and we sleep and we do things, but it's like a dream. When you wake up, you know it's a dream with open eyes. But you have to wake up to see that. It's not enough that you can say it. You have to feel it, to know it. And that have to do with throat, to be authentic. So really be authentic. Whatever the price is to tell the truth. People may not like you, but they will respect you. That's my experience. They might may not like me, but they will respect me. What do we want? Like or respect? And one thing I forgot to say when we talked about practical things. Tomorrow at lunchtime